Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Mets did something that I didn't know they were allowed to do this. I thought it was against the rules based on how the Mets have been playing here for the last 2 weeks. But you can, in fact, win 2 games in a row. Who would have thought after watching the Mets here for the last 15 days or so? But the Mets do exactly that. They come on the heels of winning yesterday and win today as they secure a series split with the Atlanta Braves behind an impressive bullpen effort from 4 different relievers: Austin Warren, Danel Nunez, Ryan Stanek, and Edwin Diaz, closing the door for them as they get a win 4-0 over the Atlanta Braves to win their 2nd in a row and jump back into first place. That's right, the Mets are officially back in first place by a half a game over the Philadelphia Phillies. All around, really nice 2 days in a row for the Mets. What is up, guys? I'm Tony Metro. If you're new to the channel, I do daily Mets content. We do a post-game recap after every single Mets game. And if you want to follow me on any of my other platforms, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, links to those are all in the bio below. Be sure to leave this video a like. Really appreciate it. Helps the channel out a lot. And if you want to be a part of the show, you can call in live to my Discord. Link to that is also in the description below. Hang out there until I'm ready to take calls here in a few minutes, and I'll pop you in when we are ready. But guys, awesome night for the Mets. I mean, you know, obviously there's a little bit of bad news with Griffin Canning going down in the 3rd inning. It does not look good, if I'm being totally honest about it. I don't see how it is anything other than an Achilles rupture for Griffin Canning. And I'm not a doctor, and I know that's probably jumping to conclusions, but with how many of those we have seen in all of sports, specifically in the NBA lately, it looked exactly the same when he just basically tried to push off that right ankle and it just gave out on him. Couldn't even walk off on his own power. So the Mets are calling it a right ankle injury right now, but I fear it is the worst in that it is a ruptured Achilles for Griffin Canning. We will wait to see. I will continue to monitor Twitter to see if there's updates, but I don't think the Mets will say anything until he gets his imaging, which I believe is scheduled for tomorrow. So the one downside to all of this, but overall, a really nice, clean win for the Mets tonight. And again, led by this bullpen. Real quick, Nico, what is up, my man? Finally, we won 2 games in a row. Yes, sir. Finally put the Braves into a corner and bullied them tonight. Just 3 hits for them this evening. The Mets had retired 16 in a row until Matt Olson's base hit with 2 outs there in the 9th off of Edwin Diaz. But then he makes quick work of Marcell Ozuna and strikes him out to end this game. But 16 in a row the Mets retired at one point. That felt like I was watching the Mets offense from the last 2 weeks when I was watching the Braves. But really great to see. 2 cats. The Braves team stinks. I'm sorry. The Mets make them look way better than they are. Nice way to find a split there. Yeah, 100% 2 cats. I still think the Braves are really I honestly think the Braves are a better, more talented team than the Phillies are, if I'm being totally honest. For whatever reason, the Braves turn it on when they are playing the Mets, but they can't seem to turn that same switch on when they're playing bad teams like the Miami Marlins, who they lost 2 out of 3 to earlier this weekend. But I do really believe the Braves are a talented team. They really messed us up for the first 6 games, 5, whatever it was, between the 2 teams. So really nice for them to be able to get the split here, though, like you said, 2 cats. And like I said last night on the stream, if the Mets could find a way to win today after getting the win on Wednesday, they get a split of this series with the Braves, it almost feels like a series win. And for a number of reasons. One, obviously, the Braves have had our number to that point. But number 2, anytime in a 4-game series, we've all been there before as Mets fans. When you win the first 2 games of a 4-game set and then end up losing the final 2, it almost feels like you lost the series. So this was a nice little gut check for the Braves that the Mets just hand-delivered them. So again, it goes down as a split. It's not a series win, but to me, it almost feels like one for the Mets, considering especially where they were coming from, having lost 10 of their previous 11 games or whatever the exact number was. So really pumped about this win today. Let's go through it. Obviously, Griffin Canning, as you can see on your screen here, goes down in the 3rd inning. I mean, non-contact play, of course. You know, he's coming off the mound there, and as you can see, getting helped by the training staff and the coaches there. So not a good sign at all. You know, like I said, I really do believe it is probably a ruptured Achilles. I hate to speculate, but it looks exactly like the other athletes across different sports that we've seen recently who have also suffered that same injury. So hopefully it's not that. I'm crossing my fingers, but I am going to go out on a limb and say it is, and we will be without him for the rest of the year. But the very following inning, Tyrone Taylor coming through with a sacrifice fly to get the Mets on the board 1-0. Unfortunately, Mets couldn't do any more in that inning, but they were able to scratch another one across thanks to a 2-out base hit up the middle from Pete Alonso. What a game from Pete Alonso. He ends up 3 for 4 in this one, 2 separate RBI knocks, including that one there. I'm sorry, that was in the RBI double. And then, of course, he comes around to score in the 7th inning on Jeff McNeil's 2-out single up the middle, just past the outreach glove of the Braves shortstop, name I can't think of right now. But I thought he was catching that ball 100%. But when it falls, you know 2 runs are scoring. The Mets are able to get a little breathing room, make it a 4-0 game. And you know what? The big reason that was the score and the Mets had that breathing room is because of a ridiculous performance from this bullpen. Let's start with Austin's 3rd injury to the starting rotation in the past 2 weeks. We don't have anybody warming up, obviously. This is not going to go well. And Austin Warren, who was just called up today, steps up and delivers an amazing outing. 2 1/3 innings of scoreless ball. He gives up just 1 hit and strikes out 2 along the way. Fantastic job from Austin Warren, who just literally was brought up to the team today from AAA. What a performance. I mean, to be pressed into that type of situation, your literal first day on the job, and he delivered. Got us through the 5th inning there, which is exactly what you would have basically been asking for out of Griffin Canning or out of any of your starting pitchers. And then he passes the baton over to Dednell Nunez, who easily looked the best that he has since last season. We know that Dednell Nunez began the season on the injured list and then went to AAA to open up and ramp things up. And then he came up to the big league club, didn't quite look the same, had a lot of issues with control. The Mets sent him back to AAA and then quietly kind of brought him back up to the big league roster about a week and a half ago. This was far and away the best that we have ever seen Dednell Nunez in 2025. He goes 2 hitless innings of relief, striking out 4 Braves along the way, including striking out the side in the 6th inning. What a performance from Dednell Nunez. That slider was just getting dotted on the outside corner to righties. The fastball had life. This was vintage Nunez that we saw in the first half of last season. If he can put together more performances like this one moving forward, maybe the Mets do have another weapon in that bullpen that we didn't think that we had a couple of weeks ago. So super pumped about that. Let me go to the chat real quick. D-Rels, what's up, my man? How you doing? Good to see you here. Always tuning in, D-Rels. Appreciate that. Nico, I'm back. What's up, man? Hope everything went well in the bathroom for you. Robert Lupinacci, Braves play Philly next. Let's go Braves. You know what, man? I hope they cannibalize each other, right? Like, I hope it's only a 3-game series. So obviously it's either going to be a split or 2-1, or it'll be a sweep for the other. But personally, I guess the best thing that could happen from my perspective is that the Phillies lose 2 out of 3. But either way, it's good because we get the Braves a little bit off of our tails now with this win today. They move back to 10 games behind the Mets in 3rd place, and the Mets obviously leapfrogged the Phillies a half game in 1st place. So yeah, we want the Phillies to lose this weekend, but I think a sweep from the Braves would also be a little bit concerning. So just let them feast on each other. It's a great sign, obviously, with the Mets going to Pittsburgh. No Paul Skeens on the mound for the Pirates over the weekend versus the Mets. So that is also really good news. Chance for the Mets to potentially rip off 5 in a row here, including these last 2 against the Braves. So I'm happy about that, Robert. D-Rels, let's go. Yes, sir. Nico says your audio is glitching. It turns off for a second and then turns on. Okay, I don't know. That's weird. I saw a lot of people did leave the stream, so I don't know if that was part of the reason, but everything looked good on my end. So if you guys would please let me know if the audio or the video is having any issues so I can correct it. But everything does look good over here on my end, other than some of the viewers dropping out of here. So yeah, it's looking like we're having a little issue. Give me a second, guys, while I fix this. But while I do that, What is your guys' big takeaway from this game? Not just this game, but from these final 2 games where the Mets are able to salvage that series split when it looked like all was lost after Tuesday night. Mets had lost the first 5 games of the season to the Braves. We're on the verge of losing this 4-game series at home versus Atlanta. But yeah, definitely let me know in the comment section over here while I tend to the audio, make sure everything is looking okay. All right, I think we're okay now. If everything sounds good to you guys on your end, could you give me a thumbs up in the chat? I'd really appreciate that. Just letting me know that everything does sound good to you guys as well. But also, like I said, if you guys do want to be part of the live show, you can call in right now. Go to my Discord. It is in the link in the description below. I will hop you guys in. Roy Batty says, LOL, Braves are sad. Haha. Look, I am not going to run victory laps. The Braves still have won 5 games to the Mets 2 through their first 7 meetings this year. But just looking through the Mets lens, I am very happy that the Mets were able to salvage this series split, that they were able to get off the schneid versus Atlanta, not have this snowball any further than it already had. That obviously was really not a fun stretch of baseball. And I'm hoping that with 2 consecutive victories, with the good vibes after splitting this series with the Braves, that they can now put that all past them. They get Pittsburgh coming up next, and pretty shortly after that, they'll be rolling into the All-Star break. That might be the best thing that could happen for this Mets team right now. Get that All-Star break rest, that basically, week off, and let these guys get healthy again, including the rotation. Mark Vientos is due to come back and be a part of the series versus Pittsburgh as well. So I think that is a really, really hopeful but very realistic possibility for the Mets as we round out the first half. So I am happy about that. But let's go over to the box score really quick. Again, amazing outing from this bullpen. Even Ryan Stanek. I said to my girlfriend while watching this game, when Ryan Stanek pitched that 8th inning, it may have been the easiest inning I have seen a Mets reliever pitch in my entire life. Like, I have never seen the Mets just set down an opponent in order the way that Ryan Stanek did tonight in the 8th inning. And he was piggybacking off of the performances from Warren and from Dednell Nunez, and it just continued with Stanek as well. So we know it's been up and down with him. We need him to be one of those potential setup guys to get the ball to Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning. So good sign from Stanek. It's a matter of consistency from him at this point, though, because it kind of feels like you never truly know what you're going to get out of Ryan Stanek. But really, really happy about that. This was just a clutch game for the Mets as far as their offensive performance. They score 4 runs. Yeah, they don't absolutely dominate the box score. Grant Holmes has got a pretty nasty slider that the Mets were chasing a lot in the early going. He could dot it as well, especially on the inside half of the plate to left-handers. I mean, he was giving them fits in this game. But in the 4th inning there, Tyrone Taylor able to get the sacrifice fly out to right center field with an 0-2 count. Mets couldn't cash in anymore, but then in the 5th, it's Pete Alonso with that RBI single with 2 outs. So that was really great to see, just going up the middle for Pete, his 2nd hit of the game. And then in the 7th, a 2-out rally that produces 2 runs. It starts with Juan Soto, the line drive single into right field. Pete Alonso ropes that double down the left field line. I'm screaming at the TV, score, Soto, come on, send him. Obviously on replay, you realize, no, that would have been a terrible decision. But in the moment, I'm like, it's 2 outs. I can't trust the Mets are getting another 2-out base hit right now. But sure enough, Jeff McNeil coming through with that little flare just past the outreach glove of Nick Wright, or whatever his name is, the Braves shortstop, falls in for a 2-run single, and the Mets able to make it a 4-0 lead. And that was the final score, just really thanks in large part to another great performance from this pitching staff, something that we hadn't really seen a whole lot of in this really bad stretch of baseball, but really, really impressed with what we got out of Dednell Nunez specifically. He goes 2 innings again, hitless, 4 strikeouts, 2 innings over just 26 pitches. Like, what? That is just insane. Super, super sick to see. So again, the Mets move ahead to first place by a half a game over the Phillies. They moved to 10 games up over the Braves. When we began this whole sprint of the NL East, 10 games in 10 days versus Philly and Atlanta. The Braves were 12 games back. So in the end, the Mets lose 2 games to them. That math doesn't seem right. I don't know. Maybe the Mets were up 13 at the beginning of this and now they're up 10. That would make more sense, I believe. But the schedule coming up, the Mets got Pittsburgh next. I believe one more in between that. And then next weekend, the Subway Series at Citi Field over 4th of July weekend. So it's not exactly the easiest schedule. The Pirates should be a pretty simple, easy sweep. You're hoping. There's no Paul Skeens on the mound for the Pirates, but you do have Brad Keller, who tossed a gem against the Mets at Citi Field a couple of months ago. So it's not exactly going to be an easy cakewalk with Pittsburgh, but I do expect the Mets to sweep this series. And if they do that, 5 in a row, and like you pointed out up there too, Cats, Braves are playing the Phillies. Good chance for the Mets to gain ground on one or both of those teams, depending on how that series plays out in Philadelphia. So, wow, guys, the world did not end. I was fairly certain it was going to. I'm actually shocked that it didn't when the Mets lost 11 of 12 or 10 of 11 games. I got to be honest. I didn't think I was going to make it much longer if they continued what they were doing, but this feels like a jumping off point to me. This feels like the Mets have officially put all of that bad voodoo and energy behind them. And I'm not saying they're going to go on a World Series run right now. There are still issues that they need to correct. They still, in my opinion, need to make a couple of significant additions and they need to get healthier. But as far as that 10 out of 11 losses run and the not being able to beat Atlanta thing that I think was a mental block for them, I do believe these 2 wins here has allowed them to basically put that all behind them. And I think they can get back to playing closer to what they were doing the first 2 months of the season. Again, not saying they're going to go back to 25, 24 games over 500, but I do believe they're going to play and be more representative of what we saw out of them in April and in May and the first part of June before all of this crap started just snowballing on them. So, guys, I want to hear from you guys. How are you feeling about the Mets right now? I said it just 2 days ago. My panic level was at a 10. Now, panic is not the word that I even want to use at this point. If I had to still put something on a panic meter, I'd put it at like a 6. So pretty significant drop off, obviously. 2 good wins against the Braves will do that for you. And then when you have Pittsburgh coming up on the schedule, but there's still some issues, like I said, that they need to correct. And this is only 2 wins. And it's nice that they came against the Braves, but they got to continue this now. Just like we quoted Major League yesterday. You win one today, you win another tomorrow. That's called a winning streak. So we're on a winning streak now. Let's see how far the Mets can take it as they enter a little bit of a softer part of their schedule. But let me know in the comment section, how are you guys feeling? What's your big takeaway from this game? So I'm checking in on Discord. I don't think we have anybody in here at the moment. But again, if you guys do want to call in and be a part of the show, taking calls right now, be happy to hear from you. Just go to the link in my description of this video just down below, and I'll call you, or I'll throw you into the chat here when we are ready to take calls, which is actually right now. So would love to do that with you guys. But let's take a look at the box score again. I am going to actually share my screen here with you guys so you can see everything that I'm seeing. But really cool to see McNeil get the 2-run single there. I mean, McNeil's been a punching bag for fans, and I am guilty of that. It's been a really rough last 2 years or so for Jeff since winning the batting title, but he has been really solid for most part this year since returning from injury. Just that 1 base hit in this one, but look, 255 average, not the 327 average we saw from batting title Jeff McNeil back in 2022, but an 834 OPS. You'll take that any day of the week from your second baseman and guy that also plays left field like on tonight's game. So happy to see Jeff McNeil coming through and delivering, especially with 2 outs, especially Pete Alonso with 2 outs with his RBI single back in the 5th inning. And even the sacrifice fly from Tyrone Taylor there, down in an 0-2 count. You got Luis Torrens and Ronnie Mauricio on deck. So it felt very important that Tyrone Taylor come through at least with the sacrifice fly there, and he does just that. So really, really happy with the timeliness of this Mets lineup today. Again, did they fill the box score? No, not exactly. I mean, they had 9 hits in this one. They score 4 runs. But again, sometimes it's about when you get those key hits. Sometimes it's about moving those runners over or hitting a sacrifice fly or taking an extra base, something we actually saw out of Luis Torrens earlier this game, although he failed to score. But really happy with the way the Mets just played in all facets of the game. The pitching obviously deserves all of the flowers for tonight. You know, the bullpen coming in cold, emergency situation for Austin Warren. He gets the job done, passes the baton over to Dednell Nunez. By far the best performance he has had in 2025. Ryan Stanek with a 1-2-3 8th inning that if you went to the bathroom during, you would have missed it because it was that quick. I mean, just light work of that Atlanta lineup that had been scorching hot against the Mets. And then obviously Edwin Diaz gives up the 2-out hit, but other than that, gets the final out. No harm, no foul. The Mets pitching staff does not walk a single batter tonight. Take a look at that. Walks right here. The Mets pitching staff does not issue a walk to the Braves tonight. Yesterday, they issued 6 walks to Atlanta. The night before, 9 walks. And that has really been the thing that has hurt the Mets the most through the first 5 games with the Braves. Walks, just constantly letting the Braves get men on base, bases loaded, second and third, first and third, doesn't matter. And then the Braves finding good pitches to do damage on. Tonight, though, completely flipping the script. Not a single free pass from this Mets pitching staff. So awesome performance from them. They are clearly all the co-MVPs of this game. But yeah, the lineup gets the timely hits. The bullpen does the rest of the job. And the Mets are now winners of 2 in a row and back in first place. So I am stoked about it. Really, really sweet. Like I've been saying, you know, doesn't feel like it's not a series win, but to me, it feels like a series win after the way the Mets were just getting totally dog walked by the Braves over the first 5 with them here in 2025. So I'm really pumped about that. But I think we got some callers in here. So why don't we do that now? You guys will please hold. Let me know how you guys are feeling in the comment section over here. Scale of 1 to 10. What are you feeling about the Mets now? Are you back off that cliff that I was on pretty much the whole week after that 10 out of 11 loss streak that they were on? I'm feeling much better, but let me know in the comment section, how are you guys feeling about the Mets at this moment? So we're going to go over to our first caller, and that is Nico. Nico, you are almost in the show. Now you are in the show. Nico, you are live. What is going on, man? How you feeling? Nico, we got you on air. What's going on, man?
I'm just happy we finally won 2 games in a row. I believe it's been like 2 weeks since that's happened. And our bullpen definitely delivered really well today.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I didn't think the bullpen was actually capable of doing what they did tonight, especially when you consider Austin Warren that just got called up tonight. But really, really impressive job by them. What else you got to add there, Nico?
I am pretty worried about Griffin Canning's injury. I hope it's nothing serious with like Sean Mania setback and Kodai Senga injured. So I just hope he gets back pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to me, like I said in the beginning of the stream, unfortunately, I think it is a ruptured Achilles for Canning. The way that he put his hands over his face, needed to be helped off the field. It looks just like all the other Achilles injuries we've seen around sports lately. So I am not banking on him getting back to the Mets anytime soon, if at all this year. Best case scenario, he'd ever, be able to pitch in October. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. But let me ask you, Nico, if he is in fact out for the season, who do you replace in this rotation for Griffin Canning? And let me also throw this at you. Is there a specific guy on the trade market that you might think about now going after a little more hard?
Honestly, I really don't know. But maybe a relief pitcher could maybe try starting. I honestly don't know.
That's all right. Well, we know Tyler McGill is hopefully going to be coming back. You know, we don't love having Tyler McGill in the rotation, but he's a necessity. So maybe that's an option, and it might mean a little bit more Paul Blackburn. So would that worry you, Nico, if it means having Paul Blackburn have to make more starts for this team?
Sorry, what was that? I wasn't able to hear you.
You're all right. So if Paul Blackburn ends up having to take the spot for Griffin Canning, how would you feel about that?
Paul Blackburn isn't the greatest pitcher, but he's not the worst pitcher, so I wouldn't be too happy, but I wouldn't be too upset.
Sure. I mean, he's a guy that has basically been a starter his entire career. Obviously, outside his season debut against the Dodgers, it has not gone all too well for Blackburn, but he is a legitimate major league starting pitcher. So maybe not the worst thing. But Nico, anything else you want to add before I let you go, dude?
Not really.
All right, dude. Well, I appreciate you calling in, guys. That's Nico. He does a great job. He's always tuned into the show. Yeah, you know, Canning's injury, as you see on your screen right here, is obviously concerning. He's, you know, getting helped off the field. Didn't look like he could put any weight on that ankle. Again, the Mets are calling it an ankle injury, but the Atlanta Braves official Twitter account actually sent a tweet to the Mets saying best wishes to Griffin Canning, which is very classy of the Braves organization to do. But to me, it tells me, yeah, that is a serious injury. It's not just my eyes that are telling me it's a very serious injury. I think a lot of people feel that way also. So hopefully not the case. Fingers crossed. But again, the optics of it, not promising for Griffin Canning. So it does open the door now. You know, we thought that we had this amazing depth in the starting rotation. But for whatever reason, we've had all these injuries and all in kind of different ways. But, you know, with Kodai Senga obviously covering first base for Pete Alonso's throw, that's how he goes down with the hamstring injury. We know Frankie Montas and Manaea were already on the injured list to begin the season. Then you have Tyler McGill with the tendonitis or the whatever it was in his pitching elbow. And all of a sudden, this pitching staff does not look as deep as we were hoping that it would be to get us through 162. So the way I'm looking at it, if Griffin Canning is in fact done for the season, and that is my professional medical diagnosis, Dr. Tony here, well, then I would probably think the rotation's going to look something at full strength with with Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, and Frankie Montas. That is probably the five guys you roll with. And that was the five guys that we planned at the beginning of the season to be in this rotation. Then if you end up needing a 6-man on certain days because you still want to get Senga that rest, it'll probably be Paul Blackburn. And then we'll see what ends up happening with Tyler McGill and his rehab, because obviously we know his pitching elbow is barking. I think he's probably going to actually be out for a decent amount of time. But, you know, there's still a little bit of depth, but it's being tested for sure. And I think they will lose Canning for the season, which is really unfortunate because the dude was having a career year, former top round pick for the Angels, whose tenure with them just never panned out. And it was really fun to watch Canning pitch as well as he has with the Mets this year. Whether it was the pitching lab or not, or whatever it was a really cool story for Canning to do that with the Mets. And I hope it's not over for him, but all signs, in my opinion, are pointing toward that. But let's talk a little Austin Warren, right? What a performance from him as he comes in to relieve Canning in this game. Canning leaving in the middle of the third inning with 2 outs, and Warren, cold, comes in and gives up just 1 base hit, 2 1/3 scoreless innings of ball from the guy that just came up from AAA today. An amazing job from him to just bust it out of the bullpen and give the Mets a chance to put some runs on the board. They score in the 4th on the Taylor sac fly. Pete Alonso with the 2-out RBI knock in the 5th to give the Mets a 2-0 lead, and then he was passing it on to Dednell Nunez after that. But really, really great job from Austin Warren. I'm going to actually share my screen over here with you guys so you can take a look. And guys, if you do want to be a part of the show right now, you can call in. I will tune you into the show. Just go to my Discord. Link to that is in the description below. So we are taking calls right now. The phone lines are open. But Austin Warren, how about that? 29 years old. They kept panning to it. Looked like his mom and maybe his wife or girlfriend in the stands at Citi Field, and they were just loving every second of it, obviously. It's his first win since April 23rd of 2023. That came with the LA Angels, so really great performance out of him. Well, a lot of people don't remember is that Warren actually did toss a scoreless inning for the Mets earlier this season. I believe that came back in April, or maybe it was May, one of those 2 months. Let's see if I can actually find it right here for us. But he's been just basically, you know, hanging out in AAA while all the other dudes are getting the call with Waddell and with Davinsky and Zuber and even Dickie Lovelady. And now finally Warren gets the call, and he does not let it go by the wayside at all. It takes advantage of it. Really, really solid job out of him. I mean, honestly, if this had all of the recipe to go off the rails this game, when Canning's exiting with 2 outs in the 4th inning, you're like, wow, okay, this is about to get ugly. There's no way the Mets are going to be able to get the job done here. The bullpen was taxed yesterday. You even had to press Diaz into duty after having a 7-1 lead entering the 9th inning. And still, the Mets find a way to get it done, thanks in large part to him and, of course, to Deadnow Nunez, who was just electric in this one. I mean, we knew Deadnow Nunez had really good stuff, but for whatever reason, it was just not going well for him so far this season. Didn't have the command, couldn't throw strikes, and today he just looked like a totally different guy. That slider was filthy, just touching every quadrant of the zone, righties, lefties, it didn't matter. Fastball up at 98 miles per hour. Just really encouraging performance from Deadnow Nunez. I can't give him an MVP win for this game. I got to give it to the entire bullpen because they all just did such an amazing job right down the line from Stanek to Diaz. So really pumped about that. But guys, let me know in the chat, how are you feeling? 4-0 win for the Mets as they salvaged the series split with the Braves. If you had told me that on Tuesday night, I would have said, you're crazy. Get the F out of here. I don't believe you for a second. The Braves have been dog walking the Mets for the first 5 games of 2025 so far. And yet the Mets found a way to do it. And I said it last night, it could be the turning point after yesterday's win. If they could get today's win, you get the split. It feels like a series win in a 4-game set, and then you go into Pittsburgh while the Phillies and the Braves are going to just tear each other apart over the weekend, and we're going to just be the visitors on the sidelines eating the popcorn and enjoying it. So really, really happy about that for sure. Pete Alonso, Nico says, Pete Alonso had a great game. He went 3 for 4, 2 singles and a double. I'm glad he's starting to hit better because he wasn't doing that great. Yeah, you know, Pete's been on a little bit of a slump, and I don't know the exact numbers. I could find it if I really wanted to. I don't have time right now, but I feel like Pete has always struggled against the Atlanta Braves. I remember a couple years ago, it was, what was the pitcher for them? The older guy. He's still pitching with Baltimore. I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head. He hits him on the hand, though. Pete is out for 2 months almost, and that totally derailed his 2022 or his 2023 season. And it just honestly just feels like there's bad vibes from the Braves when Pete Alonso's playing them. So it was really nice to see him break out with a 3-hit performance tonight. LFGM, if you want to get on Discord, you just go down to the link below. It is in the description. It says Discord. It has the logo next to it. You click that. If you don't already have one made, it's super easy. Punch in your phone number, your email, however you want to sign up. That link takes you directly to where you need to go if you do want to call into the show right now. So super, super easy. Ray, salute. Chin chin, my man. How you doing? Good to see you. Glad we were able to get this dub. Glad to have you here in the stream. Really appreciate that. Yeah, Nico, I'm not sure. Maybe you could help him out if he does still want to do it. Nico's a pro at this point. Nico was our inaugural caller here on Tony Metro Live, post-game Mets After Dark, and he has been a great caller every time since. So, D-Rails, don't know if you're still in here, but you are a popular man. I can see that. You got Ray saying what's up. But he's a great Mets fan, D-Rouse. He is always in these streams. He is always bringing the heat and the energy. I really appreciate him. I appreciate all you guys being in here. But like I said, be sure to leave this stream a like if you guys haven't already. I really appreciate it. Really helps the channel out here. Daily Mets content. We do post-game recap after every single Mets game as well. So Let's see. I'm not sure, guys. What else can we talk about here? CP's True Mets Talk. What is up, my man? How you doing? LGM. That's right. Big win for the Metsies tonight. Really, really pumped about it. And I mean, this was, like I said, I feel like could be a turning point for this team. They still got to go take care of business. They got a lot of ground that they need to make up after this horrible skid that they were on. But things look like they're trending back in the right direction. They can finally get that bad taste out of their mouth versus the Atlanta Braves. And guess what, guys? We don't have to see the Braves again until I think it's September. It's either August or September, and that is fine by me. Guys, CP's True Mets Talk, he does a great job on TikTok as well. I know he does Twitter as well. Be sure to go give him a follow and a like on all of his stuff. So a lot of great Mets fans in the chat here right now. Let's see. Nico says, only thing on my mind when I'm on air is I don't look like an idiot. No, dude, Nico, you do a great job, man. Every time you're in there, you do a really great job. You know, I am gonna, I guess, just take a look at some potential starting pitching fits that we can think about the Mets trading for. Because again, I think it's very likely that Griffin Canning ruptured his Achilles tonight and will be out for the season. So I'm going to really quick actually just double check, see if there are any updates on Twitter from Anthony DiComo or anybody else. My guess is not, because he's scheduled to get imaging tomorrow, but it definitely seems likely that it's going to happen, or it's going to be a torn Achilles. Look at this tweet from a Mets fan here. The Braves using child and goat blood to ruin Griffin Canning's career. So it wouldn't be that big a deal that they not. Oh God, this is ridiculous. But he's kind of right. Like this is Braves devil magic at work again, right? This is what they always do. Sons, you know what? No, they really, really classy by the Braves official Twitter account, sending well wishes to Griffin Canning, which only makes me even more concerned that it is a serious injury. But I don't see any updates right now. Tune in tomorrow. We'll have an update, obviously, by then, I think. But let's take a look at some potential starting pitching options that the Mets could trade for. And pretty much the easiest thing to do when I am thinking, hey, who could the Mets try to acquire at the deadline to improve their team? Oh, I know. Let's look at the Colorado Rockies roster. They don't have many good players. That's the problem. But they are so far out of the race, 18-62 through their first 80 games. Holy, you know what? Damn, that is real bad. But I've been talking about Ryan McMahon as an option at third base. I'm going to be honest. I looked a little closer at McMahon's numbers today. They're not all that impressive. Dude has never had an OPS really even sniff 800. So I'm not super into him anymore. I did say in a video earlier that I posted, Eugenio Suarez, Brett Beatty, Blade Tidwell, I will take them to Arizona by foot, piggyback ride style, if that would get a trade done for Eugenio Suarez to go to Queens. So that was a trade that I suggested in my earlier video. You guys can check that out after this. But putting Ryan McMahon to the side, let's take a look, see if there are any good starting pitchers that maybe the Mets would be able to poach away from Colorado. And as expected, not really. Take a look at some of these numbers here. Not particularly pretty. And obviously part of it is the Coors Field effect, pitching in Denver. But I mean, German Marquez, who's supposed to be their ace, guy that they have signed to an extension on 2 separate occasions, 5.79 ERA in 16 starts this year. Sensatella, we absolutely rocked in one of those starts, and the other one at Coors Field, not so much. But again, terrible numbers, 6.48 ERA on the year. Kyle Freeland's a guy that I've always kind of been interested in. He's 32 now, 5.13 ERA through 14 starts for the Rockies. So at the very least, like, you know, getting some length out of these guys, just not a lot of quality length. But he spent his entire career with the Rockies. He's 24 years old when he debuted back in 2017. It's just unfair. The dude has a career 4.57 FIP. His ERA 4.52. So maybe it's not that Coors Field effect as much, but maybe this is also one of those guys that the Mets pitching lab could get their hands on and try to turn into a sneaky little kind of back end of the rotation type of arm, similar to what Griffin Canning was looking like until tonight. So that might be an option. Let's see. Freeland is signed through 2026, and then in 27 there is a team and player vesting option. So very affordable. It's just going to come down to if the Rockies ever, you know, get into the 21st century and are willing to trade when they are clearly out of the playoff mix. But that might be someone the Mets could use or try to trade for to replace Griffin Canning, who again I believe is going to be done for the season. Do you guys have anyone that you would like the Mets to pursue, specifically starting pitching, because that's the topic with Griffin Canning going down tonight, or anybody else position player wise, relievers? Give me some names and we'll talk about them, and I'll pull up some of their stats and we could all just kind of go through it, see if they make sense or not. Let's see. Ray says yes, support CP too. Yep, CP's true Mets talk. Great Mets fan, does great work. LFGM, I think Pete Soto and Lindor's incredible playing will propel the Mets to their first NL East title since 2015. I like that energy. I really hope that is the case. Nowadays, doesn't even matter. You don't even have to win the division. There's so many playoff spots. Look what the Mets did last year as the final wild card team. But an NL East title hanging at Citi Field would be pretty sweet. First one in 10 years. I'm here for it. Ray says, Tony, you have any faith in Stearns making a big pitching move? Well, it's a good question. It depends on how you define big, because I don't know that they're going to go and try to get a Sandy Alcantara. I don't think they're going to be in the mix for Jacob deGrom, which I don't even know if he's available or not. But for pitchers of that echelon, of that caliber, I don't think the Mets are doing. I definitely don't. I mean, we see the way playoff games go in October now, where it is dominated by quality relief pitching, right? Like starters usually only go 5. Some of the really elite ones might go 6. But in the end, it's how good was your bullpen for those final 3 to 4 innings of the game. High leverage spots, pitch after pitch. So I think that's David Stearns' philosophy. And last year, I'm not sure he totally believed in this team, if I'm being honest, when he got Stanek at the deadline and they brought in Blackburn. Those were really the big additions for the Mets. And obviously calling Jose Iglesias up from AAA. But I do believe that Stearns will get very heavily involved in the relief pitcher market this year. I think he will be in on Jake Bird from the Colorado Rockies. I think he will be in on Aroldis Chapman if the Reds continue to falter. And then another pitcher from the Rockies, I can't think of his name right now. He's been really good. But yeah, no, that's what I'm feeling, Ray. I'm glad to see that you kind of feel that same way. I think that starting pitching in the playoffs is important, but not as important as having 3 to 4 shut down relievers. And right now, the Mets have Edwin Diaz, who I trust, and that's really it. I would not be trusting Reed Garrett or Huascar Brazoban or Ryan Stanek in the playoffs at this moment right now. So the Mets definitely need to bolster the pen a little bit, despite what my title of this video says, that the Mets pen delivers series split, which they did today, but not exactly sure they're going to retire 16 consecutive Braves the way they did tonight with Warren, Nunez, and Stanek to Diaz. But CP's true Mets talk. If the Twins are serious about dealing, Pablo Lopez would be awesome, would take a lot. That is a very, very key point by you there, CP. So let's go and take a look. The Twins were in the middle of their own slide while the Mets were doing it. In fact, both teams were 1-9 in their previous 10 leading into Tuesday night, I believe it was. So the Twins have been free falling almost as much as the Mets. The only safety net for them is that they are in the American League. They're in a somewhat weak AL Central. It's led right now by, I believe, Cleveland. The Tigers, of course, lead the American League Central. But let's just pull it up real quick before I go too deep into it. But I do believe the Twins will be sellers. They are 11.5 games back in the American League Central standings with 2 teams to climb. So just throw that out the window. But as far as the American League wildcard standings, let's do that real quick. And then we're going to look at what Pablo Lopez has been doing for Minnesota lately. All right, wildcard standings. Here we go. All right, so American League wildcard. You got Tampa, Toronto, Seattle holding the top 3 spots. Cleveland, LA, Texas, Boston, and then right below them are the Minnesota Twins, 3 games under 500, 2.5 games behind the final wildcard spot with 5 teams to climb. If the Twins have any sense in them, they will be sellers at this year's trade deadline. I just can't guarantee that the Minnesota Twins are a well enough run organization to realize that themselves. So let's go with the fact that maybe they have some common sense and they will trade some of their players. So Pablo Sanchez from Backyard Baseball. Dude, he was a beast. That dude used to hit bombs, right? You guys had to play Backyard Baseball. Nico, I think you're too young for it, but I think most of the rest of us here probably played Backyard Baseball at some point. All right, Pablo Lopez, not Sanchez. So Lopez, we know, was with the Marlins for a long time. He was traded to Minnesota. He has been a really solid starter for them over the past two years and then leading into this season. So far this year has been by far his best of his career. 11 starts, 2.82 ERA. He's given up 5 home runs. I thought that was 19. I was going to say that's concerning. I don't know how he could have that low of an ERA, but even the FIP right here, 2.98, showing that it's not just pure luck or great defense behind him. The whip is down 1.07. So all really solid numbers across the board from Pablo Lopez. So yeah, this is someone I would definitely be interested in, CP. I don't know what it would cost though. My guess is that it would probably begin with someone like Jonah Tong, which is super out of the question for me. But that is who teams like the Twins that are trading their ace are going to start their asking price at. And it's up to David Stearns to work them down from there. So will the Mets do that? No, absolutely not. I don't believe the Mets will do that. But it's going to start there with the Mets' 4th overall prospect, the guy that's leading minor league baseball in all of strikeouts this year, has an ERA below 2. He's just been ridiculous for AA. That's probably not going to be the case, but I could see the Mets trying to lower it and maybe something like Blade Tidwell plus someone else, maybe like a Marco Vargas, who's the 13th ranked prospect in the Mets system right now. Maybe someone like Jeremy Rodriguez, 10th overall prospect. He's only in low A right now. He's not really expected to debut until 2028. He's a shortstop, second baseman, middle infielder. That's something I would definitely get on board with. I like Blade Tidwell, but he is expendable in my opinion. I don't really truly see him becoming a starting pitcher in this team's rotation in the future. I don't think he's going to have the command for it. I think he'll probably need to narrow down his pitch selection and just pick 2 or 3 of his favorites. And I think he could potentially be an effective reliever, but I'm not sure I see him as a starter. And for those reasons, I am willing to trade Blade Tidwell in the right trade. But that's just my humble opinion. I could be completely wrong. Maybe he becomes a Cy Young Award winner for this team. Let's see. CP says, Elvin Solano, OMG, I still miss Bader, Iglesias, and Martinez. Yeah, man, I mean, look, that was a fun team last year, but I do not believe in recreating magic for the sake of recreating it. Hopefully this team has their own unique magic that they'll be able to create. But hey, Harrison Bader, if Jose Siri doesn't come back, maybe Harrison Bader is someone the Mets take a look at, but he did sign a rather expensive contract with Minnesota and it continues into next season. So not so sure that would happen, but I would love to see Harrison Bader come back for sure. CP's True Mets stock Correa Buxton stated they aren't interested in being traded. So I'm very curious how Minnesota approaches the deadline in the weak American League. Okay, that's really interesting because why would they not want to get traded? Especially a guy like Correa who, you know, has won a World Series with Houston. Like, why would he just enjoy floundering in Minnesota? I have no interest in Carlos Correa. And my goodness, guys, was that not the biggest blessing in disguise that Carlos Correa did not pass his physical with the Mets when they almost stole him from under the San Francisco Giants a few off seasons ago? Could you imagine if he had that $350 million contract that Steve Cohen tried to get him to sign in the middle of the night? That would be absolute chaos. There would be no Juan Soto right now. And who knows where this franchise would be. But Byron Buxton, I'm surprised by that too. I mean, like, they've made the playoffs at least once with him while he's been a Minnesota Twin, but I just don't see how anybody would find playing in that market attractive and with such a just boring team that, yeah, they make the playoffs here and there, but always are a first round exit, usually at the hands of the Yankees or Houston. So I don't know. Let's see, Nico. I know what Backyard Baseball is. I wanted to get it, but I wasn't able to. Backyard Baseball, man, that got me through some long school days where I was really not enjoying math class. But CP's True Mets Talk. Let's see. Gotta run. Get you on the stream, man. Love the content. Yeah, appreciate you, CP. Guys, if you don't already follow CP's True Mets Talk, he does a great job on TikTok and Twitter. And I'm not sure if he's on Instagram, but just type that same name in, CP's True Mets Talk, and you could find him. You could even go follow me first on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Links to those on the description below, and we follow each other on there. So 2 for 1 right there. BOGO. Buy one, get one free. It's almost the 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. Let's see. Ray McLean should have been brought up in lieu of Tidwell. Nolan McLean. Yeah. Nolan McLean is in AAA, I believe. Is that correct? Let me check on that really quick. And then I think what we're going to do here, if I don't have any callers in the Discord, which doesn't look like I do right now, that will probably wrap things up, do a quick preview of tomorrow's game, the series opener between the Mets and the Pirates out at PNC Park. It's a beautiful stadium, still on my bucket list. So yeah, McLean has been nasty for AAA so far this year, Ray. Here are his numbers, actually. You can see 2.19 ERA over 11 starts. He's also made 2 relief appearances, 71 strikeouts in 70 innings. Not sure exactly where he stands as far as Mets top prospects right now. Like I've said to you guys before on some of these streams, I don't typically go to MLB.com. I don't think that they do a great job of ranking teams' prospects. But for simplicity, this is the source that we're going to use for right now. So I'm not even sure where McLean falls on it. MLB.com. Oh, okay, there he is, 5th. And estimated arrival is for 2025. So here's the write-up on McLean. First of all, 55 grade fastball, 50 grade curveball, sliders a 70, cutters a 55, changeup 45, control is a 45, overall a 55. Those are pretty solid numbers. The overall ranking, the max is 70. So to have a 70 slider is insane. 55 fastball leaves a little be desired. If he can control it and have command, then that's another thing, especially with a slider that is as nasty as his is. Let's see. McLean intended to play both baseball and football at Oklahoma State. Ultimately chose to focus on baseball. Orioles took him in the 3rd round in 22. They had a concerning MRI. Let's see. So when did the Mets end up taking him? Mets selected him in the 3rd round of 2023. Okay, so I like it. College arm, had a year and a half now at least of pitching in professional baseball in the minors for the Mets. So happy about that. Let's see. Last year, June 2024, struck out 52.2% of his batters through the first 17 games. I'm sorry. That is when he was being a 2-way player. I'm sorry. I'm all mixed up. I forgot McLean was a 2-way player. So he was striking out 52% of the time. And that's when he said, yeah, I think I'm going to just focus on pitching. And so that's what he's doing. 94 mile per hour fastball that can touch 96. It says the slider's a monster, 84 to 87 miles per hour, 3,000 RPM. I'm not going to even pretend to know what that means. I just know that's a really high number for RPMs on a breaking ball. So that's a good sign. Changeup was the lowest of all of his pitches, upper 80. So maybe there's just not enough separation between his 94, 95 fastball and a high 80s changeup. Hopefully something the pitching lab could work on. But Ray, yeah, I think you're on the money with that one, man. I think Nolan McLean is probably the next in line to get the call from AAA when the team needs another starter, which definitely looks like a reality with with Griffin Canning going down. We'll see what happens with Minaya. We know the little setback doesn't sound too serious, and hopefully Montas does continue to pitch well. But thank you guys so much all for being here in the chat. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you giving me some good ideas here and letting me see, having me do some research here and learning a little bit more as well as we do it all together. But guys, I think that is going to do it for the stream. Real quick, before I go, we will preview tomorrow's game as the Mets open up a series with the Pirates in this one. Mets are 48-34, back to 14 games over 500 and back in first place where they belong. It will be David Peterson on the mound taking on Mitch Keller. Peterson is, of course, coming off that putrid start against the Phillies on Sunday Night Baseball this past weekend where he gave up 5 runs in the 4th inning. That was his undoing. But other than that, really, it has been a sparkling year for Peterson. Despite that start there, has a 2.98 ERA, over 15 starts and 90 and 2/3 innings for the Mets. I said it before the year in one of my bold predictions that David Peterson would emerge as the ace of this rotation. I think that's still the case, despite that small little hiccup last weekend versus Philadelphia. And he will be taking on Mitch Keller, who, I mean, man, this guy's been in the league, it feels like forever now, since 2019. It's not that long, but it just feels like such a long time. 4.02 ERA here on the season, but really pitched well against the Mets back on May 13th. He went 7 innings, gave up 5 hits and 2 runs, gave up a homer in that one. The Mets did end up winning that game, but it was a solid performance from Mitch Keller. So not going to be an easy cakewalk, but really happy the Mets were able to salvage the split with the Braves, get the bad taste out of their mouth, hopefully now have rounded that corner, turned a corner, whatever the saying is, and can hopefully go rip off 3 in a row, sweep the Pirates while the Braves and the Phillies tear each other apart and separate ourselves from at least one, if not both of these teams. So really happy about that. Guys, before I finish up, let me say my thank yous. Thank you to Nico. Thank you to Two Cats. Thank you to D. Rels, to Robert Lupinacci. Thank you to Roy Batty. Thank you to LFGM, to Ray. Thank you to CP True Mets Talk. Thank you to Elvin Solano and everyone else that was in the stream here. You guys are awesome. You have no idea how much it helps when you guys are popping off in the stream with the chat and getting more ideas for me to talk about and keep this thing going. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. We'll be back with another post-game recap tomorrow after Mets and Pirates right here on my channel. But until then, guys, I'm Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.